regularly scheduled meeting of the City of Hartford Common Council. All proper notices were sent. I'd like to call this meeting to order and ask if you'd please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. And announcements. Well, actually, roll call. Shannon?
The mayor and all alderpersons are present, except Alderperson Kohler, who is absent and excused.
Thank you. We have before us a unanimous consent agenda.
Move for approval.
Move for approval by President Rusniak, second by Alderperson Turchi.
Motion by Alderperson Rusniak, seconded by Alderperson Turchi to approve the Common Council minutes of May 14th, 2024.
Any comments, questions, concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. At this time, communication. Shannon?
So we're planning on having a team photo of the Common Council at the next meeting on June 11th. So please dress in business attire, and if anyone's not going to be there, please let us know, because we will have to reschedule. You're not going to be there?
Most likely, no.
Okay. So we do the 28th? We'll reschedule it
Thank
to
you.
the 28th? 25th, sorry. So the next meeting then, at the end of June?
That'd be great.
Does that
You
work?
bet.
Okay.
Super, thank you.
I won't be here for that meeting. Sorry, I'll be in Hawaii.
Hawaii, I move that we pay for the Common Council to go to Hawaii so we can take our picture.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second.
Do we have a July option?
First meeting in July would be great.
Second Tuesday in July?
Yeah, that'd work for me.
I'm
That
looking.
would be a Tuesday.
July 9th?
Ninth?
July 9th ring a bell for anybody?
Ninth.
That'll work.
Let's schedule for July 9th, and then, again, if someone can't make it, we just keep moving it.
October.
By the time we get there, one of you guys will be,
Up for election.
will be gone.
I am good on the
Oh,
line.
it's a team picture, so I can wear my Jordan jersey
There you go.
then? Is that right?
Our-
Not that team.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, not that team, right. Although the Brewers one would work.
Yes.
Super.
Not Miller Lite, though.
Okay, next we have appearances in citizen comments. Any citizen of the city of Hartford is welcome to come up and state your name and address. You get 3 glorious minutes. Anybody? Third call. Hearing none, we have the mayor's report. I wanted to thank all of the people who worked at the Hartford Car Show. It was, from my understanding, it was a record, wasn't it? Yeah, we had a record number of vehicles that was actually participating in, so we're growing and growing, and that was a wonderful thing. So thank you to all from the mayor. At this time, we go with aldermanic request. President Resniak.
Well, as long as we're handing out thank yous, thank you to everybody involved in yesterday's parade and festivities up at Sawyer Park. It was very well attended. Excellent program at Sawyer
Yes, it was.
Park, and there was a lot of people that put this all together, and it was just very well done. So, a morning well spent.
Thank you. Great point. Alderperson Reagan.
Just one update. The Mid-Moraine Municipal Association held a dinner meeting on Wednesday, May 22nd at the Fredonia Fire Station. State Senator Dewey Strobel was the featured speaker. He spoke about the redrawn legislative district maps. It actually changes the area he represents quite a bit. And he brought up funding as it relates to cleaning up PFAS, something we've talked about with our water treatment plant as well. And the new shared revenue increases to municipalities. And the state budget actually has a surplus, and his view on how it should be approached, although he acknowledged it's better than in having to deal with a deficit.
Yeah, it's funny how they take too much money, then take credit for it, but we never seem to get it back. Oh, well, such is life. But thank you very much. Alderperson Curley.
One item, Mr. Mayor. We have a new full-time firefighter paramedic. The board approved Chief Bogart's appointment of Kathleen Zeitsky to a full-time firefighter, paramedic on or after June 3rd, subject to successful completion of pre-hire conditions. And we are also losing Captain Kevin Lovelace on June 2nd. He is resigning for greener pastures.
Okay. Thank you very much. Alderperson Garza.
Just a safety note for everyone out there driving. Kids have been driving vehicles, I shouldn't say vehicles, but golf carts, scooters, makeshift wagons, something with little motors on them with no lights, and they're driving around at night. So just want everyone to be aware that you might come across some shadows and their little kids on these motorized vehicles that shouldn't be on the road. All right.
Thank you. Alderperson Turchi.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Alderperson Webb.
That's not me riding around on the scooter, I promise. I do have a scooter, but it has a light. Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Okay, that's funny. Alderperson Fulham.
Nothing tonight, Mayor, thank you.
Alderperson Savage.
Just want to give a shout out to the community of Hartford. What a great turnout for the car show.
Yes.
Yeah, it was
absolutely.
beautiful.
Wonderful. That concludes our aldermanic requests. We go to public hearings. First one, a resolution amending final resolution number 3561 for the levying and collecting of special assessments under section 66.0703 Wisconsin statutes for the installation of sidewalks at Lakeview Acres, first edition subdivision, and 2001, 2003, 2007, and 2008 Lakeview Drive, and 40 South Terry Lane located in section 23 and section 22, T10 sub N, R18 sub E, City of Hartford, Washington County, Wisconsin. I'd like to open the hearing and ask for a reading of the notice.
Please take notice that a public hearing will be held on May 28th, 2024 at 7 p.m. or thereafter in the Common Council Chambers at the lower level of City Hall, 109 North Main Street, Hartford, Wisconsin, by the Common Council of the City of Hartford regarding amending final special assessments under Section 66.0703 Wisconsin statutes for the installation of sidewalk on both sides of South Terry Lane, Zern Drive, and Lakeview Drive in the Lakeview Acres, First Edition subdivision to include all properties without sidewalk, and 2001, 2003, 2007 Lakeview Drive, and 32 and 40 South Terry Lane, which are not part of the subdivision, along with 38 properties located in the northwest quarter of Section 23 and the northeast quarter of Section 22, T10N, R18E, City of Hartford, Washington County, Wisconsin. The preliminary special assessment resolution for this project was adopted in Resolution Number 3560 by the Common Council on January 28, 2020. A public hearing was held and the final resolution adopted on February 25, 2020 in Resolution Number 3561. The purpose of the proposed amendment is to amend the terms of paragraph 6 of Resolution Number 3561 regarding payment of the special assessment. The city engineer's report on the special assessments for the installation of sidewalk is available for viewing in the city clerk's office in City Hall between the hours of 7:30 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. Monday through Friday by appointment. The purpose of said public hearing is to hear those persons who wish to comment for or against the final special assessments for the installation of sidewalk on both sides of South Terry Lane, Zern Drive, and Lakeview Drive in the Lakeview Acres First Edition subdivision to include all properties without sidewalk, and 2001, 2003, 2007 Lakeview Drive, and 32 and 40 South Terry Lane, which are not part of the subdivision, along with 38 properties located in the northwest quarter of Section 23 and the northeast quarter of Section 22, T10N, R18E, City of Hartford, Washington County, Wisconsin, dated this first day of May 2024. This notice was published in the Daily News on May 7th and May 14th, and 25 notices were sent.
Thank you very much. Next item is the explanation of hearing by staff. Steve, are you taking this? Oh, okay, we have our city attorney, Ian Proust.
So this first public hearing is focused on the properties that were either didn't contest or settled the litigation that happened after the initial assessment in 2020. The settlement in that stated that the city would offer a 10-year payment plan for anything over $1,000, which typically was a 5-year payment plan. So that's one of the changes we're making. The other change is just taking the dates out. The the final resolution was very specific and had actual years in as far as when the assessments would go out. So I made them just say January 1st of the year following the invoice, to make sure that it's, and we will try to do that on an ongoing basis to make sure we don't have a similar issue if bills don't come in on time to assess before the end of the year. So those are the two main changes here. Again, as we discussed with the other properties, when we talked about the initial resolution a month ago, the settlement agreement also locked in the assessment price at the 2020 amount, so that is what is being proposed. The table here does show the 2024 cost just to demonstrate that it exceeds the cost of the 2020 estimate. So we're sticking with the 2020 assessment and eating the additional couple of percent for the cost.
Thank you. All righty, appreciate that. At this time, we'll go appearances for anybody wishing to appear before us as regards to the levying and collecting of special assessments. Anybody wishing to appear for? Anybody for? And again, this is actually for just the changes. We have another public hearing right after this, which actually takes into account the fact that we're making these changes. So what we're really discussing right now are just the changes that you talked about.
This is the amendment to the one that's already on the books. The next one is the new assessments that are reassessing the properties that were dismissed.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Okay, nobody for. Okay, appearances against. Anybody wishing to appear against what we're doing as regards to the levying and collecting of special assessments and revising? Anybody against? Anybody against? If not, we'll move to, I'm sorry, go ahead, please. Just come on up, state your name, your address, and you get 3 glorious minutes.
Angela Porchetta.
Pull it up. There you go. Thank you very much.
Angela Porchetta Eggert, 2063 Lakeview Drive.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say, I don't know how this typically works. However, the sidewalks, the work had begun already before we could come to this meeting to have a say or comment. I guess, I don't know if that's a normal thing where you start the work before we actually can come to comment on the special assessment. I guess that was my big thing, is that we had not been notified of the amount of the assessment this time around before the work began. And I actually came to the city hall to find out what my cost would be on the 2nd, and then they started the work on the 3rd, and then we got the letter from the city on the 4th. So, which then did show the amounts of what the assessment would be. So I guess my comment would just be it would have been nice to know this before the work began. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Just as a clarification, this was the work and the dollar amounts were put out 4.5 years ago in January 2020.
Yes,
Is that correct?
it's the same dollar amount as
Same
previous.
dollar amount, same thing, noticed 4.5 years ago, and then we could start the work because the fact that the work was going to be done was already paid, and this is just having to do with the assessments applied to the work.
So yes, I mean, is there anybody else for? And then
No,
we can
there's
kind
nobody
of-
else coming up.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that because I kind of left that hanging and.
Yep. So as I had pointed that out when we adopted the preliminary resolution
Right.
a month ago, under normal circumstances, yes, we would proceed with, notification. That's what we did 4 years ago when we
Right.
adopted the initial assessments. In this case, there was 2 factors kind of out there. One is we had these existing assessments that were just, I mean, the the resolution had already been adopted. We're just, like I said, changing the dates and adding the longer payment plan. So those were already out there.
Right.
We had already had public hearings on those. The other thing is when the contract was approved, there was specific language in the approval and the funding that called out this money. So this isn't oh, hey, maybe we should assess for this after the fact. It was anticipated.
Correct.
That we would assess for it when we approved the contract. And that was at an open session meeting that the contract was moving forward. And I believe John Griffin had held numerous public information sessions and talked to the neighborhood. So while the specific cost for this year hadn't necessarily gone out, the cost from the last time would have still been available.
Okay, and if I heard you correctly, the cost this time and the cost that is the same?
Correct.
Right,
But the
so in
cost-
other words, 4 years' worth of inflation in what we're going through now, the city is going to eat.
Yeah.
Right, and we're still doing what the
The-
price was over 4 years ago.
I
Okay.
didn't actually add a total, but I mean, 50, 60, $70 per assessment it exceeds, the cost. So there is a slight increase to the price over the last several years.
Yes,
That is not being assessed. We are sticking with the 2020 amounts.
2020
That's agreed upon.
assessments, okay, thank you very much. Just wanted to be sure that that was the case, okay. So I heard it correct. Anybody else appearing against? Anybody against, please come up to the microphone, state your name and your address, and you get 3 glorious minutes.
I'm Vic Sisis. I live on the corner of Lakeview Drive and Terry,
Okay, and the address, the street address, please?
2087 Lakeview Drive,
Thank you.
Lot 16. And I was really disappointed to see that these, I call them wheelchair access on the corners of the street. Who's paying for that? Of these access?
We can't take questions.
Yeah, unfortunately, sir, we cannot take questions during this. This is your time to actually do this. We can take that
Oh.
question down and everything, but this isn't a question back and forth. This is your time to comment on what's going on, so.
Well, there's 4 people in that whole neighborhood that have bills for $3,000 and some, and I'm one of them. And I just, I guess this is the wrong place to ask questions, so it's just disappointing that I thought I could, get more information, even at
Where would he
the
go for more information? Can we get him that information?
First of all, the city pays for those.
Yes.
Second of all, again, we can't go question back and forth.
Understood, okay. You're welcome to call the city afterwards and speak to
Pardon?
you're welcome to call the city. You could talk to the city engineer or the city administrator to go back and forth with questions. But thank you very much. Any other people wishing to speak against? Hearing none, we'll close the hearing and ask for action on resolution number 3682, a resolution amending final resolution 3561 for the levying and collection of special assessments under section 660703 Wisconsin statutes for the installation of sidewalk in Lakeview Acres. Alderperson Curley to approve, and for second, Alderperson Regan.
Motion by Alderperson Curley, seconded by Alderperson Regan for the adoption of proposed resolution number 3682.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Okay. Item B, a final resolution for the levying and collecting of special assessments under section 66.0703 Wisconsin statutes for the installation of sidewalk in Lakeview Acres First Edition subdivision, and 2001, 2003, 2007, and 2008 Lakeview Drive and 40 South Terry Lane, located in Section 23 and Section 22 T10N R18E, City of Hartford, Washington County, Wisconsin. I'd like to open the hearing and ask for a reading of the notice.
Please take notice that a public hearing will be held on May 28th, 2024 at 7 p.m. or thereafter in the Common Council Chambers at the lower level of City Hall, 109 North Main Street, Hartford, Wisconsin, by the Common Council of the City of Hartford regarding final special assessments under Section 66.0703 Wisconsin statutes for the installation of sidewalk on both sides of South Terry Lane, Zern Drive, and Lakeview Drive in the Lakeview Acres, First Edition subdivision to include all properties without sidewalk and 2001, 2003, 2007 Lakeview Drive, and 32 and 40 South Terry Lane, which are not part of the subdivision, along 38 properties located in the northwest quarter of Section 23 and the northeast quarter of Section 22, T10N, R18E, City of Hartford, Washington County, Wisconsin. The preliminary special assessment resolution for this project was adopted in Resolution Number 3674 by the Common Council on April 16, 2024. The city engineer's report on the special assessments for the installation of sidewalk is available for viewing in the city clerk's office in City Hall between the hours of 7:30 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. Monday through Friday by appointment. The purpose of said public hearing is to hear those persons who wish to comment for or against the final special assessments for the installation of sidewalk on both sides of South Terry Lane, Zern Drive, and Lakeview Drive in the Lakeview Acres, First Edition subdivision to include all properties without sidewalk, and 2001, 2003, and 2007 Lakeview Drive, and 32 and 40 South Terry Lane, which are not part of the subdivision, along 38 properties located in the northwest quarter of Section 23 and the northeast quarter of Section 22, T10N R18E, City of Hartford, Washington County, Wisconsin, dated this first day of May 2024. This was published in the Daily News on May 7th and May 14th, and 12 notices were sent.
Thank you very much. At this time, we'll get explanation of hearing by staff. I would imagine that would again be our city attorney, Ian Proust.
Yes. So this is the, like I noted, the reassessment of the properties that we had previously canceled their special assessment to essentially end the litigation several years ago. These, again, because we have to be uniform in our assessments across the board, are sticking with the 2020 original assessment cost. We can't charge the different amount. It has to be uniform through the whole thing. So it is maintaining that 2020 assessment cost. Again, like I noted previously, the 2024 cost is there just to document the increase in price to show that we're still charging the lower 2020 price and the basis for that. And I will note that Ms. Porchetta is actually on this special assessment, not the amendment to, so you can deem her testimony to be applicable to this one.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that sincerely. Okay. At this time, we have appearances for anybody wishing to appear for this final resolution of the levying and collecting of special assessments. Any person wishing to appear for? Any for? And any appearances against? Anybody wishing to appear against the final working of the levying and collecting of special assessments? Any against? Third call. Any against? Hearing none, discussion by council. Yes, President Rusniak.
Just a little history. Many years ago, when Lakeview Acres subdivision first got started, I knew the builder that was building a couple homes out there. And at that time, in the developer's agreement, it stated that sidewalks would be installed in that subdivision. That was a long time ago. Here we are, 2024, and it's finally come to fruition. So this should not be a surprise to anyone. That was in the original developer's agreement, probably going back 15, 20 years ago. I don't know how old that subdivision is.
94, I want to say it might have been.
How much? Oh.
94, 95, somewhere in there.
Yeah,
Okay, that's a long time ago.
30 years ago.
29.
So this should not have been a secret to anybody that sidewalks eventually were going to come to your subdivision. And here we are.
And here we are. Okay, any other discussion by council? Hearing none, I'll close the hearing And ask for action on resolution number 3683.
I'll move to approve.
Move to approve, Alderperson Regan, second by Alderperson Curley.
Motion by Alderperson Regan, seconded by Alderperson Curley for the adoption of proposed resolution number 3683.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. Standing committee reports, we don't have any, interestingly enough, but we do have a number of ordinances. First one, we have ordinance A, first reading and possible action thereon, which is ordinance 1485, an ordinance annexing city-owned territory to the city of Hartford, Wisconsin, the satellite fire station acquisition. Tax key number T6-0486-00C. There was an executive summary attached, which I'm sure we've all memorized, and handling that will be our city planner, Jacob Moss. Back to a bow tie. Thank you.
Yes, rocking the bow tie for you. Thank you. So in May of 2022, the city annexed on this CSM that's in front of you here at Lot 2. It's 2.811 acres. It's been designated for the future fire station or satellite fire station for the city. This type of a city-owned property annexation is my favorite type. We don't have to do a public hearing. We already own the property. We just have to pass an ordinance to get it through. There are no taxes on it, so we don't have to worry about paying taxes back to the county to the township due to the fact that it's city-owned. We don't pay taxes. So it's just a simple ordinance procedure, and then once approved, it gets filed with the county, the DOA, and a couple other state agencies.
Super. Okay. With that, any questions for Jacob? If not, would look for a motion to suspend the rules for immediate consideration. That is President Rusniak, second by Alderperson Turchi.
Motion by Alderperson Rusniak, seconded by Alderperson Turchi, to suspend the rules for immediate consideration of proposed ordinance number 1485.
For suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Okay, who wants to move to Alderperson Webb, Alderperson Garza?
Motion by Alderperson Webb, seconded by Alderperson Garza for the adoption of proposed ordinance number 1485.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried.
Just a quick follow-up on this project. We will be actually looking to do an RFP for design of the firehouse in 2020, the third or fourth quarter of this year. And then in 6 months later, they will have the design back to us, which will then go out for an RFP on the project construction, which will start third or fourth quarter of '25 for completion in third quarter of '26 and occupancy of the said building. So just to give you a heads up of where that's going.
Yes, Alderperson.
One quick question. Can we have a sign made for that lot that will say future home of fire department so we don't get it confused?
No, we prefer to make people very confused by the Vickney and Associates. They're like, oh, the firehouse is going up. Well, no, not exactly. So we definitely can look into that. Thank you.
Sure.
Maybe Gretchen Vickney needs to make a
Yes.
sign.
Yes, there you go.
That would be the answer.
I like
Get a
that.
deal on signs and silver.
Okay, item number A2, ordinance number 1486, an ordinance amending section 4.14 of the municipal code and creating section 4.145 of the municipal code relating to duties and responsibilities of the city attorney. And seeing we have him here, our city attorney, Ian Proust.
Hence the reason this got rushed to the presses for today, since I will be here. So this addresses two issues. The first is with the change in city prosecutor, there's now kind of a separation of duties between the civil side that I handle and the prosecution side that Attorney Rutler handles. So this is, most of the language there is similar to language I drafted in West Bend a year or two ago, just addressing, the duties of the separate attorneys. West Bend has had a separate prosecutor for many years and had ordinances addressing that. So that is the separation of the two duties. The only thing I will note, that I did add language that basically says or this was language I added in West Bend when we drafted it, that says that it's deemed to be a conflict of interest if there's any type of action involving the mayor, an alderperson, or the city administrator. That I can waive, but doesn't put the city attorney in the position of having to prosecute an elected official, the city administrator, the people that I have to advise and work with on a daily basis. So that's one thing I just want to note, not trying to hide that in there, but I think it's an important thing just to make sure that it's very black and white, that if I'm stepping aside, that's why it is. So the other issue that came up, and the reason this kind of got rushed to the presses, is the American Bar Association, who's kind of an advisory body for most of the state bar associations, came out with a formal legal opinion. They have the model ethics rules for attorneys that are adopted by the states, sometimes with modifications, sometimes without, that focused on the use of listservs by attorneys, and basically said that if you can determine who the attorney's client is by, whatever information, and there is information about the representation, that it could be an ethical violation. Obviously, when you're talking municipal attorneys, it's generally pretty easy to know who their clients are because it's either somebody like me who's in private practice with a limited number of clients, or somebody who's in-house and has only one client. So the informed consent language is the way to address that issue. The listservs, and likely by extension, the conference calls we do on a weekly basis to discuss issues, presenting at conferences where I might discuss, some contract, some scenario that came up or asked a question where somebody's going to clearly know that that's an issue we're facing. Those are all very valuable tools that we use, on a daily, weekly basis to collaborate with one another to deal with election issues or contractors or, does anybody regulate RVs? Can you point me to your ordinance? It's those type of actions, and it's the give and take, right? So it's not just getting information from people. It's also saying, oh yeah, I dealt with that a couple months ago. This is what I figured out and how we dealt with it. There is a specific carve out that addresses kind of those confidential things, right? So negotiations with bargaining positions. So if we're doing a developer's agreement, if we're in active negotiations with the union and we don't want to, disclose those at that point in time, sometimes there is value in disclosing something like that. Litigation details or strategies, disciplinary proceedings, or if there's disputes with other units of government where opposing counsel might be on the call, obviously those are circumstances where we don't want kind of just a general grant of being able to disclose those things. But I did build in the ability, because there are times when we still want information, to be able to get permission from either the city administrator, mayor, or president of the Common Council to do that. So if it's, hey, what is everybody else doing with their police negotiations? Or has anybody dealt with this developer? What has been their experience? We can still discuss those, details to how's everybody dealing with the Walmart litigation for the property taxes. We can still discuss those items to share information if there's value in that. So that's the other part. That's that paragraph 4 that was added. So.
Thank you very much. With that explanation, any questions for Ian as we got it? If not, I'd be looking for a motion to suspend the rules.
Actually, I have one comment.
Okay, go ahead, please.
I did discuss this with Ian before, and I did have him, so obviously when attorneys are like talking on a listserv, like that can save us money because other attorneys are like giving him ideas or like templates effectively, and that can make him more efficient. But the one thing I did ask that he add is that when he's engaging in those interactions, he's doing those only to the extent necessary and only for the benefit of the city, so he can't engage in those activities that doesn't ultimately benefit us, since we pay his bills and ultimately want it to be in order to our benefit. So he did add those edits to the language, and I just wanted to
I will note I do not charge you guys for the weekly 1 hour call.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Where we're
good.
talking about
I
those
was
things.
I was tempted to ask you if we got a deal, because seeing you were using what you did for West Bend, all it was a cut and
Well,
paste.
yeah, this,
So,
that made it a little bit easier to do that, but, no, I do not typically bill for the weekly calls that, you know, like the league has, it started with COVID and it's continued ever since. Essentially a 1 hour weekly phone call, which sometimes lasts 15 minutes and sometimes lasts an hour plus. So I don't bill that back. It's just kind of, you know, development time that I use.
well, thank you very much for that. Again, I think we had Alderperson Fulop for and then Alderperson Savage for suspension.
Motion by Alderperson Fulop, seconded by Alderperson Savage to suspend the rules for immediate consideration of proposed ordinance number 1486.
Okay, for suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Okay, for passage of 1486, Alderperson Fulop, second by Alderperson Webb.
Motion by Alderperson Fulop, seconded by Alderperson Webb for the adoption of proposed ordinance number 1486.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, we are on A3, ordinance number 1487, an ordinance amending section 340.0013 and creating section 340.00165 of the Hartford Municipal Code relating to 24-hour and RV and camper parking. So say we get to the example.
Let me start off before Ian takes over. This was the request that was brought forward by Alderperson Fulop regarding a complaint that he had received from a resident living in the community. He requested that we look into what how everyone else handles this. And so from that, we pulled together this ordinance, and I'll let Ian explain it.
So there's two portions to this. You can act on one of them or both of them. It's easy, that's an easy amendment if you choose to only move forward with one. The first one is one that I definitely needs to be incorporated. I was talking to the chief of police today, and we'll probably go back and make sure that's cleaned up. This language is cleaned up everywhere, which is just a clarification that says that moving a vehicle means one full vehicle length. This isn't you move back and forth 1 foot and, oh, I moved my vehicle. You have to move the equivalent of one full vehicle length to be considered to have moved your vehicle. This one specifically addresses the 24-hour parking restriction. We will probably go back and clean up all of the other parking restrictions in the code. This just came up in the context of overnight parking. So that's the first change. The second change is essentially defining RVs and campers and prohibiting overnight parking on city streets, with the exception of with the exception of waiver by the police chief. So if you're leaving at 4 a.m. and you load up the night before and you give the police department a call and say, hey, we're leaving in the middle of the night, we're parking it overnight, we're obviously not driving out to wherever we store it, that's fine. If it's some type of limited issue where you're redoing your driveway, maybe that's fine. But there's discretion for the chief of police or whoever he designates, whether it's the sergeants or whoever he designates to make those determinations on a daily basis, when it's not a violation of the spirit of this, which is kind of prohibiting storage of RVs and campers on city street. So there is some flexibility there in the discretion of the police department. But the main goal here is just saying that you can't park overnight on city streets with an RV or a camper, and that's year-round. That's not just the winter restriction, that would be year-round. The main reason for that is just the size and the safety issues. I mean, we have a lot of narrow streets here, and parking a giant RV in the middle of the night, it can get very narrow moving down those streets. It can take up all the parking spots in, areas with limited parking where the neighborhood relies heavily on the limited spots on like a cul-de-sac that are available. It can take up multiple spots. And especially on cul-de-sacs, it can create issues because, when you have a circle and you're parking an RV, it's not really on the sidewalk very efficient, or on the side of the road very efficiently.
Okay, so on, when we're looking at this, I heard in the beginning with Steve's explanation, we were looking at what other communities are doing. Is this similar to what the two larger communities like Germantown and West Bend are doing in Washington County?
I don't know that West Bend has a specific prohibition. Richfield does. I also looked at several of the other larger communities, statewide. So like Manitowoc has a restriction, Wausau has restrictions, Oshkosh has restrictions, Sun Prairie does. This is one of those issues I threw out on, our call, and that it was pretty universal that, overnight restrictions on the street are pretty common. We already do regulate where you can store it on the property, so it's not just in the front yard or something.
Right.
And West Bend, I know, does have those provisions about regulating where you can park the RV on your property. It has to be on a cement pad. It can't just be on the grass. So they were very similar there.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, any questions for staff? Go ahead, President Rusniak.
So when will this go into force? After publication?
Yes, it would be after publication.
So what is that, a couple weeks?
Yes, yep.
Okay.
And then I'm sure as with normal protocol, police department would give a couple warnings just to make sure people know it's not going to be the second it's published, there's citations issued.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Alderperson Webb.
Can I ask a hypothetical question? So this says, no person shall park an RV or a camper on any street within the city for a period of time longer than 1 hour between the hours of 10 PM and 6 AM. So if you park a camper or an RV on the street for over an hour, you're in violation of this?
Could be.
So if you came home or unloading your things from your RV at 5 o'clock in the morning or 10 o'clock at night?
That's where the number 4 comes in, which is, if you're going to be coming home late, hey, we're rolling in at 10 o'clock at night, we're not going to unload our RV tonight, we'll unload it tomorrow. You give the police department a call. I equate it very much to what the city of Platteville had when I was going to college there, where if somebody happened to be at the bars overnight, you couldn't park on Main Street overnight, you called the police department and you said, hey, I'm not driving home tonight, can I leave my car on Main Street? And as long as it wasn't a snow emergency, they were usually good with it. It's that type of discretion built into there so that the police department can say, yeah, you're coming home late, you're leaving early. Of course, that makes sense where you would park it on the street for one night. You're not storing it there for weeks on end or the whole summer whenever you're home.
I mean, wouldn't it be easier to just say, don't park it overnight instead of putting this like 1 hour restriction?
I mean, if you're literally pulling up and unloading, that the 1 hour is intended to be for loading and unloading. You don't have to call if all you're doing is
I
loading.
mean, I don't have an RV, but I can imagine somebody who does thinking that that is a arbitrarily short time.
I mean, that, if the desire is to add a little time there, it's easy enough to do, to say 2 hours or whatever. I mean, that's an easy change to make. That can be an amendment as part of a motion.
If you want to, again, suggest a change to that, that's what this is all about. So if you have the wording that you used and you'd like to amend it to do that, that's perfect.
I don't know if other people have an opinion.
Alderperson Turchi.
I tend to agree with Alderperson Webb a little bit, but it's also discretion of enforcement as well. So if it's an hour, if it's 2 hours, or whatever we decide on, it's still almost a discretionary thing, right?
Yes.
Right? If the citizen notifies the police department, I'm sure they'll work with them, right? So I don't know if an hour or 2 hour, whatever it is, would give that leeway, more leeway or not. I mean, still need to notify.
Yep.
Right? So I don't know if it helps or doesn't help. So that's the question, right?
I would feel better with 2 hours, but I don't feel particularly strongly. I agree that this is like ultimately a discretionary measure, and like if we have a bunch of people complain that like, somebody's walking around and stop watching them, and in an hour they're like, get your RV out of here, we can always like revisit this, right?
Yeah, the key component to this is that obviously we're not as worried about the person who parks it one night on the street. It's the person who brings it in on April 1st and wants to leave it there until, when was it, November 31st is when we go into winter parking restrictions. So, I mean, it's the individuals who want to park there all year, when they're allowed. So-
And we've had those too, because I've
Oh,
got
absolutely.
calls
Well,
about.
we've got one right now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So I
Yep.
understand.
Well, or the Christmas vacation situation where your relatives are setting up shop on the city street for 2 weeks while they visit. I mean, that's also not something that's appropriate, that we're trying to, make sure that's avoided.
Just to be clear, though, if the relatives are coming in and they back in their fifth wheel onto your driveway, which is cement, and it doesn't overhang the sidewalk, and then we don't have a problem.
Yeah, and, if it's for 6 months at a time and it turns into a accessory structure, problem, but if it's,
Understood.
limited, I mean, that's
I
not
won't be
something we're
doing
gonna
that for
enforce.
years to my kids yet, so we don't have to. Okay, Alderperson Fulop, did you have something? I thought you might have. raised your
Yeah,
hand.
I did.
Please, go ahead.
So that language was taken from, you say you meet with others and,
Yep, so I started kind of with Manitowoc's language and cleaned up the RV definition is based on the federal definition of what an RV is. So I cleaned that up a little bit and what the camper is a little bit and kind of modified some of the other things. I added the waiver language to make it, a little more flexible because, again, the goal is this is not ruling with an iron fist. This is dealing with storage of RVs on streets when
Right.
it's not appropriate.
Thank you. Alderperson Turkey, did you have something else? Did you? No? Okay.
I mean, I'd leave it up to the council if we want to change an hour to 2 hours. It's up, it's,
It was a hypothetical for a reason.
Understood, very good.
Let the PD take care of it.
Okay, unless there's some type of a motion to amend, I would look for this, to have,
motion
my
to approve.
mind, well, not to approve, but to suspend the rules. Thank you. Okay, I got it.
I'll help.
Well, I just said it, so,
Oh.
okay. To suspend the rules, Alderperson Turchi, Alderperson Garza.
Motion by Alderperson Turchi, seconded by Alderperson Garza to suspend the rules for immediate consideration of proposed ordinance number 1487.
For suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Okay, for approval of ordinance number 1487 regarding RV and camper parking. Alderperson Curley, Alderperson Fulop.
Motion by Alderperson Curley, seconded by Alderperson Fulop for the adoption of proposed ordinance number 1487.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Okay, we don't have anything for second readings and a possible action. We go to the city administrator's report and our city administrator, Steve Volker.
All right, the item on the agenda is the, are you on the right one? All right. This has to do with the East Luce Street reconstruction and replacement of the alleyway project 2024. Just a reminder, every summer, we normally do 2 road reconstruction projects. You've already approved the first one, which has already started. This is on Rossman, and the second one is East Luce. Just for some history, the first one, we normally engineer in-house. So one of our engineer techs actually designs the road. And the second one, we go out for contract because we don't have enough time to get both of them done. And so the second one was designed and then went out for RFP for bids on this project. And what we did this year is because again, as you remember, Alderperson Rusniak, I think, was the one who championed this, having actually an alleyway project every year to try to clean up the alleyways that we have in the community. And we have a list, you all saw the list when we first presented it, of the alleys with the most amount of problems. This alley in question is close to the East Luce Street reconstruction project, and so we try to bid them out together, because obviously one of the biggest costs is your involvement in getting all the equipment to that location. So because of that, we bid these together, and the only reason that this is not under unanimous consent is that one of the items, the alley repair, did come in over the budget, but the other 2 came in under budget. So as it was, the fiscal impact on these 2 projects, $376,672.78 from the originally budgeted $671,775 for the East Luce Street reconstruction project. The $48,000 is for the alley project. We again originally budgeted $35,000. And then the $124,000 was from the $143,000 budget for the capital improvement program for the sanitary sewer replacement project under that. And then finally, $137,736 is from the water utility. So again, the majority of these projects came in under budget, specifically, again, the road construction portion of it, that's the city's portion in which we borrow funds for. The water and sewer portions are paid with cash by those utilities. And again, the storm sewer is also an item in which we pay for through our debt, our geo bonding. So we're looking very good with both of these projects, the East Lewis Street project and the Rossman Street project. We're actually saving quite a bit of money compared to what we budgeted for these two projects. So that's good news. So these four projects all together, again, would be a total bid to Wonder Construction of Iron Ridge for a total bid of $688,404. Any questions? Alderperson Rusniak.
Total under budget was like $298,700?
The first one was
Under
about 200,000, about almost $300,000.
$300,000. How many times does a project like that come in $300,000 under bid? Or
Well,
under budget, rather? That's crazy.
It is, I mean, I think road construction projects, I think we're estimating extremely high, thinking that
Okay.
just as you are paying more for gasoline, I'm not sure if you've noticed that, but gasoline, of course, petroleum is oil, oil is our roadways, right? So the anticipation was that the cost of pavement was going to be going up quite a bit. As most construction projects are going well over budget. Again, I think these were all very conservatively bid. In other words, they went on the high side. So that the fact that they're coming in so much lower, I think is just saying that those items didn't go up as greatly as we anticipated. So.
Wonderful news.
Yes. And as for the higher gas prices, I've been walking more, so. So, okay. Back to you, Mayor.
Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Would look for a motion to move forward with resolution number 3682, amending, flip the page, for discussion and consideration, actually, to execute the contract documents for the reconstruction of East Lewis Street and water construction. Oh, okay, yes. Certainly, we can do that. We can do Alderperson Garza, Alderperson Savage.
Motion by Alderperson Garza, seconded by Alderperson Savage, authorizing the appropriate city officials to execute contract documents for the reconstruction of East Lewis Street with Wandera Construction, Inc., West 2874 Gray Log Road, Iron Ridge, Wisconsin, 53035, in the estimated bid amount of $688,404.82.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. And that is it for adjournment. Alderperson Savage, Alderperson Curley. Okay, sorry.
Motion by Alderperson Savage, seconded by Alderperson Curley to adjourn at 7:53 PM.
For adjournment, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. We are adjourned.